relay to the brain. Thalamus does not process a bit. It decides which stimuli are important and will receive attention. Okay, it doesn't process them. It just sends it to wherever it needs to go. So it relays information between the peripheral and the cortex. The hypothalamus largely involved in regulation of the homeostasis, okay, in charge of the autonomic nervous system, ANS, everything is automatic, okay, and the endocrine system. So autonomic nervous system and the endocrine system, okay. So with the endocrine system, it's going to be through the pituitary gland, mammary body, posterior swelling involve memory and emotional response to smell. We're going to learn that later on. Pituitary gland, we saw where that is. Optic chiasm, where the optic nerve crosses. I think we might have a picture. Nope, not in this chapter. Except that little area, but there's another view, the last chapter. Okay, so here, after the thalamus and hypothalamus, first comes the midbrain, then the pons, then coming out of the brainstem would be the medulla oblongata. Okay, so connects the spinal cord to the brain, or the medulla oblongata, which is the spinal cord right here, medulla oblongata, pons, and the midbrain. Controls heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, among other less vital functions. So remember that, please. Cranial nerves are also here. Okay. Major ascending and descending pathway are here. So ascending, it going up to the brain, well, going up to the thalamus, hypothalamus, and to the brain. That's ascending, going up. Descending is going down. Whatever it needs to do, it's going to descend through here. So it's major, ascending, and descending pathway. Damage to this part of the brain will kill you. So if you get hit in the neck somewhere, because you might start your heart rate, it might stop it. Okay. Here, we're going to start with the midbrain first. Okay. So remember the diencephalon? It's got the thalamus and the pineal gland, and inside would be the hypothalamus. Okay. So here's the midbrain. Okay, we're going to go through the midbrain first. Midbrain, remember there is tactum, which is called the roof, and a tegmentum, which is the floor. Okay, tegmentum is the floor. So in the tactum, in the roof, there are 4 little bumps. Okay, 4 little bumps. So there is an inferior colliculus, and there's a superior colliculus. So inferior is on the bottom, superior is on the top. So there are 4 bumps. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. The inferior ones are for your ears, auditory pathway. Superior ones are your visual. So if you look at our face, our eyes are on kind of a little bit above, where is that? Above our ear. Okay, a little bit above our ear. So if you look at the superior one, it's for visual. Okay, and the bottom one, so a little bit lower than our eyes, would be the ear. So the superior one for the visual, and inferior one for the auditory. Of course, it's not just visual. Okay, so the superior one is for the visual. So it's like when you hear something. Okay, when you hear something, your eyes will automatically go there. Okay, that is what we're talking about, the visual section. Okay, orientation of the eye to a sound or touch. At the floor, nuclei that sends and receive through the cranial nerve. So all these you'll see here are cranial nerves. There are 12 of them that we need to memorize. So the pons, which is in the middle, okay, we already saw the midbrain. Okay, here's the pons, and then here's the medulla oblongata. Pons is the main connection between the cerebellum, brainstem, and the cerebrum. Containing ascending and descending tracts, as well as nuclei and tracts and relay between the brain and the cerebellum. Remember, the cerebellum is right here in the back. Okay. Nuclei control chewing and salivation. So chewing and salivation. Okay. Again, in the midbrain, so first you have the visual to sound, and then there is the bumps there for the sound, the auditory. And now a little bit lower would be for chewing and salivation. Lower pons assist the medulla with breathing, swallowing. So here's the medulla. The lower pons also helps with breathing and swallowing. So this is the pons. Comes the medulla oblongata. Continue with the spinal cord. Comes out foramen magnums to the pons. It's got two swelling called the pyramids. Descending nerve tract transmit action potential from the brain to the motor neuron in the cord. So whatever the brain says, it will have an action potential, and it will cross the pyramids, and it will go down the ascending tract to the motor neurons, not the sensory, because it's going down. Okay, it's got nuclei that control heart rate, blood vessel diameter, breathing. Okay, so if you get hit there, you could potentially die. Okay. Reticular formation, scattered throughout the brain. Reticular formation helps you with your sleep cycle, your wakefulness, general brain activity, and your attention, things like that. Part of the reticular formation, the role in arousing and maintaining consciousness, regulation of sleep-wake cycle. Okay, damage to these cells, you could have a coma. Remember these guys: choroid plexus. Choroid plexus, I don't know which slide it is, but you'll see them as well. It's got the epididymal cells. You guys remember what that is? It makes CSF. So your brain is filled with CSF. And we're going to have to see more choroid plexus here. Okay. Here are the reticular formation we just talked about. We're going to see, I think in the several slides, some of the oh, I forgot the name of it. We'll see it in a minute. So here's the cerebellum. Okay, cerebellum. They call it the little brain. Okay. Descending fibers from the cerebrum to pons into the cerebellum. Okay. So remember, cerebrum is the top of the brain right here, cerebrum. So descending fiber from the cerebrum to the pons, into the pons, from the brain to the pons, into the cerebellum. Okay. Copy of commands being sent to the spinal cord. Okay. So that's for the descending from the brain down the pons into the cerebellum. Okay, so remember this as well. Arbor vitae. Arbor is tree. Vitae is life. So you see these, they look like a tree. Okay, tree of life. Okay, so descending fibers, again from the cerebrum down to the pons into the cerebellum. The ascending information, the one that's coming from the spinal cord, okay, is copied into the inferior olive, okay, and then it enters the cerebellum, okay, and then it goes up. Just like riding a bike, cerebellum integrate sensory information, okay, from proprioception to the eye and ears, coordination of the skeletal muscle and activity. So sometimes damage to there, you'll be dizzy and you don't know your orientation. When learning, the cerebrum and cerebellum coordinate information so that activity can become automated, which does not require as much attention for repetition. So that was the brain. Now we're going to go into the spinal cord. So here's a cross-section of the spinal cord. Ascending. What is ascending? Going up, okay? Ascending usually carries sensory information to the brain. Okay, so it goes upward, that's ascending. Descending generally carry motors. Okay, so whatever the brain tells you to do, it goes down the spinal cord. Descending usually tells the body what to do, usually motor. Okay. Conduit for nerve impulse and to the brain, so that's what the spinal cord does. Integrator, there's also reflexes. Okay. There are two grooves. Okay. Fissure and sulcus. So posteriorly, dorsal, remember the back. The back carries sensory information. We talked about that with touching the water. So the nerve comes in here, come here, and then up the brain. Okay, and then the brain comes down to the front of the ventral side, the motor, and then it goes out this way. So the back would be sensory, and the front would be motor. Spinal cord, some anatomy. So here's the brainstem. Here's the cervical. There's a little bit bigger cervical enlargement. Here's the thoracics. And the lumbar enlargement at the end is called a conus medullaris. Okay, that is actually where it ends. Your spinal cord ends around there. And then it's got little hair connecting the rest. It's called a cauda equina. The tail of a horse, that's what they call it. Okay, and then filum terminale. Filum terminale. Okay, so here is that same thing of this guy. So the posterior, again, is usually what? Sensory. So things come in here, go to the middle, and then up the brain. Okay, whatever comes down goes to the front to activate whatever it needs to activate. Okay, anterior is usually motor. So these are called posterior horn, anterior horn, and lateral horns. Lateral horn is a sympathetic division, autonomic nervous system found in the thoracic, upper lumbar, and sacral region. Okay, see that lateral horn?